division of TTech with over 20 years of IT management and portfolio management experience. He's known for her ability to help organizations balance the allure of cutting-edge technology and the demands for tomorrow's business needs against the reality of today's budget. Her experience includes support for financial retail, food manufacturing, distribution industries, IT financial management, IT due diligence to support mergers and acquisitions. Marcelle is a founding member of the Jamaica IT and Services Alliance, we call it JITSA, and a member of the board of Universal Services Fund. She fosters development of female leaders in IT through one-on-one mentoring as a proud part of the Red Shoe Movement, which is a global community that supports career growth in women. Let's welcome Marcelle as she delivers and discusses managing your IT dashboard.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Not in the red shoes today, but I wore a red jacket. T-Tech. So, as he said, the running order will start with around 40-45-minute conversation on managing your IT dashboard. Assistant. So, when we look at the standard IT organization, we know that it's not really a dashboard. It's likely to be dashboards that we have to utilize to manage our dynamic IT environment. What we have found as we have put in place various service metrics to support our organizations is that we have to answer the question, is it true that what gets measured gets managed? What do you think? Yes? No? Everyone says yes, hands up. Okay, good. No? On the fence. But I'm going to answer it for you. It is true. It is true, and the answer is yes. And if that's the case, then we don't need to be here. We all kind of know that already, and we can move on. But it's not really about what gets measured. It's about the actual information that you choose to measure. So we understand that the answer is yes, but have we chosen to measure the right things to give the value that is expected from our IT investments? And that's what we're going to go through today. But as we do with most of our presentations, we have to have a little section that says not in scope. Right? So we have an audience that's a mixed audience. So we're going to have a lot of IT professionals in the room that's thinking, yeah, we're going to talk about what's up gold. We're going to look at solar winds and manage engine and other tools. No, that's not what we're doing today. We have persons who are perhaps developers and they're thinking it's user interface design. It's making the dashboard tell a story. It's going to remind me of the rule of 7. We can only remember 7 things, so we should only talk about 7 things. No, unfortunately, that's not in scope. And finally, we have other persons in the room who are at the point where they want to purchase something. Am I going to buy Power BI? Am I going to get Tableau? Are you going to tell me about the beauty of Domo and Zoho? That's not what we're doing today. So what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be looking at a brief definition of dashboard metrics, jumping into a conversation around the maturity of your organization, the maturity of how you think about IT, and how that maturity impacts the actual metrics that you should be looking at. We're also going to define how you should go about selecting your metrics, and we're going to talk about why you should change your metrics periodically. And depending on our time, we will go through 3 case studies that highlight the importance of moving away from those lovely dashboards of technical metrics that we use when we're managing the IT organization. So let's go forward. So, as we can imagine, a dashboard typically means a summary portfolio, a summary of various metrics that shows us how our organization is performing. We're using that in various organizations from the IT level to the business level to the departmental level. But I thought it was important to understand that historically, a dashboard was something under carriage that prevented the mud from hitting you whilst you're driving through the streets. Now, in IT, we understand the importance that, that the mud that can come from having a server down, or the mud that can come from not meeting your performance numbers, that we're on the stock exchange. It's important that we understand the importance of having the dashboard available so that we can monitor performance very quickly quick one glance and we can see what is happening in the organization. Metrics just speaks to the method that we're going to use to measure something and the results that we're going to monitor ourselves against. We tend to talk about performance metrics, both in the business and the IT sense. Now, as I said earlier, it's not really possible to jump into this conversation without thinking about the maturity of the IT organization or the maturity of the use of IT in your company. It seems as if it's almost impossible for me to do a presentation without falling back to this graphic. This graphic summarizes IT maturity as defined by our partner Infotech Research Group, and James Alexander will be speaking next. Thank you. But let's look at this graphic a little bit more. It speaks to the level of satisfaction in the organization with IT. If you're an unstable IT organization, or a company that is unstable in its use of IT, then you're not measuring anything. You're just running around trying to keep up and keep moving forward. At the second level in the tier, you're likely to be a firefighter. You're able to support the business, you're answering the phone calls, you're getting some things done, but you're not quite seen as a trusted operator, optimizing IT, answering the right questions, and helping the business to move forward. Neither are you seen as being a business partner, key to defining new solutions that will drive the business value. Neither are you seen as an innovator, transforming the business. So these are the various levels of IT maturity. Now, as you can imagine, there's nothing happening here in terms of measurement, but for each of the tiers above, there's likely to be some approach to measuring performance. Now, at T-Tech, we have a very active social group, and every now and again you see someone saying, look, things are up. But what does that mean? It doesn't mean that everybody's happy. The server is up, the network is up, Flow is sending out some lovely signals. We're not having the downtime that we've been experiencing recently. Telling us that things are up does not tell you that you're getting the IT experience and service that you want. And that's when you're at maturity level 1. If you find that your IT professionals are just responding very quickly to the term up, things are up, then you're probably at a level 1 maturity. If you've been in an executive meeting or a boardroom and you find yourself explaining 3 nines, 4 nines, 5 nines, you're probably at the first level of maturity. What does that mean? It means that you're speaking to the board, you're speaking to the funding providers, and you're saying, if you want to have only 8 hours of downtime for the entire year, then we need to design our systems so that we are at 99.9% uptime. That's the conversation that you're having. Or you could be saying 24/7 operations, only 5 minutes of downtime for the whole year, then that's 99.999% that you have to build out the systems to support. Now, it means that you're probably still talking in the business around things such as, you'll be saying things like, well, we need to not have one point of failure. You're still talking about obsolescence. Nobody believes in purchasing new equipment every 5 years. If you're still having a conversation, then likely your IT maturity is at firefighter stage and your metric maturity will be at level 1. Of course, as you can imagine, at this point, we're really focusing on the availability of IT equipment, the availability of the internet, the availability of email services, and the availability of printer and other basic services. For maturity level 2, the typical approach that you'll probably take at this point is you're starting to think as a trusted operator or a trusted business partner, as an IT professional and as an organization investing in IT. You're at that point now where you're thinking about the availability of applications, not just the basic underlying technology. You're talking about the availability of reports. You're talking about the accuracy of data. You're looking at achieving conformance to regulatory compliance. So between these two, you are no longer just thinking, Have I purchased another Cisco router? Have I invested in another server? You have taken it now to the level of looking at the service that is being brought to the business through the use of multiple pieces of technology. You know that you are at level 2 if you found yourself discussing whether or not the email is up, whether or not you have received the email. It's not about it being up, whether or not you've actually received the email. You will be at this point discussing where is the GL, as I experienced at my first job ever, where I stopped looking at the technology only and started to understand the importance of the service, where you actually now have to get involved in understanding the needs of the business. You can't get to level 2 in your metric maturity. You can't get to level 2 if you're not having a relationship with the business. And then at level 3, the company is being driven, the departments are being driven to prove value. Where is the value that you're providing to the business? Once you started to have that conversation around, it's no longer about the 5 nines, it's no longer around whether or not the service is working, it is now around how can we prove that you are giving value to the business. I'm going to steal a term that I picked up yesterday. You're correlating IT performance to business performance, and you're now talking about the total cost of ownership. We all knew that one. Return on investments, standard term, but who knew about COI? That was a new one for me yesterday, and that one is called the cost of indecision. So we tend to talk about looking at what do we need to do, what do we need to spend, what we need to invest in, but have we looked at what's the cost of not moving forward? So going forward, we'll be discussing this topic between levels, maturity level 2 and level 3, because what we really want to do is to help to drive the maturity of your approach to measurement as you go forward in the use of metrics and dashboards to manage your organization. You will have, as I said before, to drive that maturity, you will have to utilize business relationships. You have to get to the point where you're no longer focusing on the technology and you've now started to ask the questions of the business. What does it take for you to manage the business? How can IT support you in getting the data that you need to take decisions? Because that's the idea behind the dashboards. It's a decision support mechanism, and it's driving you to take quick decisions. The world is moving very quickly. It's not about taking 2 months, 3 months, 6 months to get the information. And it's not about getting information in a retroactive sense. It's about being able to forecast, to look forward, and to move more quickly. So with business relationship management, you're focusing on building trust in the business, you're focusing on understanding your needs, and you're focusing on deriving metrics that will actually meet the needs of the business decision makers. Now the challenge we have is the business might sometimes give that trust. They will go past, they will invest, they will get to the point where they say, okay, we would accept 99.99. 4 nines is good enough. 1 hour of downtime for the year is good enough. Or the business might say, I'll take 8 hours of downtime for the year. So I don't need all the redundancy that you're offering me. But having done that, are you able to verify and prove that the investments are actually giving the return on investments that the business expects? So it's important that we understand that when we design our metrics, we have to turn around and verify the impact that we're having on the business. So how do you define the metrics? What do we go through? What we do is we start with who are your stakeholders. We start with the process of identifying in your organization who are the persons that need to take decisions quickly. What do they need to know? Now, operationally, some of your stakeholders, if you're looking at the dashboard and metrics for the IT department, fine, they need to know about the routers. They need to know about the status of your internet services. But as you go through the maturity curve and you're now faced with working with the business, you need to understand what does the CFO need to know? What does the operations manager need to know? It's going to be different. Also, having done that, you now start to look at what are the goals, what are the pain points. We look at what do they appreciate and need to measure on a day-by-day basis. How often do they need to measure? Is it weekly, monthly? How do you go about understanding their needs so that you can derive their service metrics? The challenge we also see is that having gone through that process, you may end up with multiple metrics for each of your stakeholders. And if you're not careful, you're attempting to put them all in at the same time, and you're also attempting to get them all done manually. So it doesn't make sense if you have not tested the viability of the metric. If you're not able to measure it, if you're not able to measure it in an automated way, that's answering the how question. If you're not able to define your actions after you have found a particular measurement. So let's say you have measured and you've seen that online services have impacted revenue. What are you going to do? And it's not just about what is IT going to do? What is the business going to do? Does the business have the numbers that will tell them that 1 hour drop off in online services has resulted in a 10% impact on revenue? May I have water, please? Thank you. So having defined the metrics, having gone through that process, it's important to take the time to discuss with the stakeholders and to gain agreement and acceptance of those metrics. The metrics have to be specific to the stakeholders. As we said before, the Chief Financial Officer, the Chief Operations Officer, they're going to have a different expectation and need. Thank you. They're going to have a different expectation, they're going to have a different need. Also, as we're defining the metrics, we want to ensure that there is clarity around how each metric works, and also that we maintain a very simplified approach to the metrics. Now, to drive this home, I think it would be good for us to look at a few case studies before we jump into talking about what does it take to move away from a defined metric to another. And to do that, I'd like to jump into a scenario that I think most of us would have encountered as we've gone through our development in IT and business. The case study here, no, it's not that we're running a video. The case study here is looking at the need for video conferencing. I've done this analysis 3, 4, 5 times in the past 10 years for various organizations, where typically the stakeholder, the who, will be the Chief Financial Officer. The Chief Financial Officer has an issue. What's that issue? He wants to find a way to cut down the costs related to travel for business meetings. And so he says, in this day and age, we can implement video conferencing. So the investments are calculated, and we say, why do we need to know how to go about doing this? We go through the process, we develop the total cost of ownership, right? The recent implementation of video conferencing is supposed to save 50% on our travel costs because we can have the meetings from a distance. We think about how to do it. We ensure that the solution works on Apple devices, Windows devices, etc. We go through all of the effort and we figure out the total cost of ownership and we win approval to get that proposal done. But then, if you are at a low level of maturity, you stop there. And I've always stopped there. But as I went through this presentation and preparing for this presentation, I realized that the important point that we've missed as IT professionals, for those of you in the room who are IT professionals, and also for my CFOs, is to keep monitoring and ensuring that you remember why you're using a video conferencing solution on a quarterly basis. Are you tallying and reporting back to the business how much you've saved in the past 3 months? So you did the calculation once to get the fixed asset purchase, but did you continue to monitor and to track that we are saving money through the use of this tool? If we were doing that, then 2 years later, when you need more bandwidth because you have more usage, 3 years later, when you need new equipment because the doctor inch has increased, you will not have the fight that we see a lot of organizations go through in order to refresh their investments in that technology. And so the metric here is not so much about whether or not the video conferencing solution is up. Yes, it's up. That's not what needs to be tracked. What needs to be tracked is how much did I save this month? How much did I save this quarter? How much did I save this year because I have made this investment? So that return on investment analysis, all of that work you put into winning the business and winning the purchase for your boardroom will now continue to have an impact over and over again. Another case study that I came upon that I thought would be an interesting discussion is related to the pharmaceutical industry. In this case study, we're looking at a CEO who has to make a decision whether or not a drug is ready to go through the external testing process. So what is his need? He needs to know how to measure the success of his internal teams and their readiness to take that drug forward to see the FDA. What he's seeing sometimes is that he's getting data from multiple teams and the data is not correlating. One team is saying the drug is safe, another team is saying the drug isn't safe. They're looking at data from different perspectives. How does he merge it all together to ensure that they're actually speaking the same language? That's where IT comes in to help in answering that. Why are we seeing differences in opinion? How do we ensure that all the data is seated at some central point so they're doing the analysis in the same way? So in order for us to see a situation which is more related to maturity level 2, because we're talking about using metrics here to support the regulatory compliance of an organization, is you will now have to have the organization putting their time and effort behind creating a central data store, and from doing that, monitoring out of that central data store metrics which are aligned across the business. Now, in some organizations, this could be related also to centralizing and monitoring your financials instead of having an opinion based on another Excel report coming from various teams and departments. Another case study that we can look at to understand the importance of moving beyond talking about the technology is to look at revenue. That's the golden phrase. We'll have another revenue conversation later with Rick Siddiqui from our partner Certus. Revenue is always something that we want to find a way to help the business to measure. Who is the stakeholder in this scenario I'm going to give you? The scenario here, coming from our partners, is the example of a financial institution. Let us say you have the assistant vice president for retail banking in an organization. That assistant vice president is responsible for the use of ATMs, responsible for the use of online banking solutions, and so for him, he's trying to ensure that he gets people out of the bank, or get people, or she is responsible for getting people out of the banking floor. I just will remind you of the importance of being a bit more gender neutral. So what do you need to know? The vice president for retail banking in this scenario needs to know how many persons are actually utilizing the banking services in the banking hall versus online versus ATM. Sounds simple, but typically IT departments are not structured and ready to have that conversation. They're more focused on uptime. Things are up. So in partnership with the vice president for retail, what you want to do is focus on creating a reporting that shows the number of persons using the online banking systems, the number of persons who have logged in through that solution, who have gone through the ATM, and start to track that as the metric. So the metric is no longer what's happening with the equipment behind it. Yes, that's happening inside IT. You're keeping that inside the IT organization, knowing whether or not the ATM is up. But outside of IT, interacting with that vice president, we are showing that we're providing a service. The service impacts the business because we can show that that uptime has now translated to the number of persons using the systems. Another way to look at it is connecting the use of those online tools and the calls into the help desk. If you've seen a trend where the calls into the help desk have gone up related to the internet service, then you know that there's a correlation between what you're doing in IT and the cost to the business of maintaining a help desk. Any questions? Good. With that said, we can now start to consider what needs to be done as we maintain the maturity of our service metrics. Now, it's human nature. Let's jump to the question. What's being managed? It's human nature to be not really managing the service experience. Once you've given me a number, once you've given me a metric that I can look at, it's quite likely that you're going to be focused on that number. You want 99.9% uptime, we're going to do anything to give you 99.9% uptime. You want 10% turnover in terms of the number of persons logging in to the online portal, we're going to do anything to drive that number. If you're not careful, you get very focused on managing the metric. And so what you're going to find is that there's a need to change the metric as you change, as your maturity grows. You're going to need to consider adding new metrics, shifting from a particular conversation, removing some metrics, changing how you measure the metrics, perhaps make that number a tighter target, move it forward. In short, you have to go through a process of maintaining the performance, not of the metric itself or the number, but of the experience. So as I said, what's being managed is the metric. And when we say metrics, we're talking about hundreds of them. In IT, right now at TTech, we've just launched a bunch of monitors on the wall, thousands of metrics flying over, flying across the screens on a day-by-day basis. Each looking at various clients, some of them in aggregate, some of them not in aggregate. And the reality is that this level of granularity and detail is a part of the problem also, because it helps to alienate us from the view of our business colleagues. Because this is the view of the engineer. This is the view of the engineer that just wants to see a whole bunch of stuff happening. You want to see the numbers floating. Yeah, my IT guys in the room are smiling. They understand what I mean. But really, what we're supposed to be measuring is the service experience. When you take your car to the service, the engineer has all these metrics, has all of this information. But when you take the car on the road, that's the car we're taking on the road, Chris. When you take the car on the road, you only have 3 or 4 items on the dashboard. You don't need a dashboard that shows you, let's go up. It shows you all of that. Your car has operating in it little metrics that are tracking oil, it's tracking water, it's tracking air pressure, it's tracking everything you could possibly think of. But you don't need to see all of that. You just need to know that it's got gas. Okay? So if you need help with your metrics, if you need help in understanding how to go about moving your organization from being focused on a plethora of numbers, but numbers which have no meaning to the business, then come and talk to us. Because at TTech, we have actually gone through this maturity cycle with customers, gone through the maturity cycle for ourselves, and we understand the importance of having that conversation and moving forward from a business relationship perspective. We understand the importance of identifying the right stakeholders, and we will also be able to help you with the critical alignment of your IT service performance to metrics. Now, the biggest part of the issue is when we see that poorly designed metrics can also have the unintended consequence of doing the wrong things. So if you're focused on uptime, you're actually likely to do something to get back to uptime rather than doing what is needed to drive the proper service experience. We've been there and we've recovered and we've helped our customers to do the same. So if you need help with your metrics, the answer is yes, and please reach out to us and we can support you. But until then, let me hear your questions. Let's have a conversation. This is TechCon, Tech Conversations. Thank you. So, who's first? Any questions?
The question I have for you stems from within the business. There are competing groups as it relates to what exactly contributes to the return on investment, even as it relates to technology, right? Um, so you might find that where technology actually affects the bottom line, it's not seen as the actual contributor to the effect on the bottom line, even in light of the data that is there. So my question to you is do how do you go about, as you know, obviously the provider of these kinds of services, how do you go about ensuring that the CFOs and the C-level individuals actually have a clear appreciation of the data that is being provided, so as to demonstrate that it's actually the technology that is doing this, that it's not marketing. It's not a CFO's brilliant idea in the shower one morning that leads him to feel it. But how do you ensure that the data, which you ought not to argue with, actually demonstrates that it is the implementation of the technology and the measurement of all these metrics that you put in that actually cause this change that you're seeing, which would then cause you to more appreciate the value of the technology that is being implemented? How do you go about demonstrating that in an effective way?
I'm not so sure I wanted that question, but okay, no problem. Thank you, Trevor. It really is about driving a multi-stakeholder conversation in the business. If you speak to the CFO alone, then yes, they want to know what's my return on investment, what's my total cost. They're going in that direction. If you speak to the visionary CEOs in the room, I'll call no names at the back, then they're looking at have we done the right things to lay the foundation for the future. Right? And we take the decisions necessary to do that. If you speak to the chief risk officer, they just want to manage risk. And they're thinking, no, let us hold back on doing X or doing Y because it's too risky. For example, you could have a situation where the marketing officer wants to grab the data and do a blast to all of the customers. The chief risk officers would say, well, based on GDPR, based on data privacy, we're not permitted to do that. So we have to go through a process of getting their permission before we can do that. And that's right, because there's a compliance and there's a need to get that done. It is about having a conversation and connecting the dots. If you don't have the ability to pull the data that's needed for the initiative, if you don't have the ability to shape that data, then you really don't have a project. You really don't have an initiative that can drive the business performance. We've seen that the organization and the industry that the organization is coming from is actually going to drive how quickly we start to appreciate that IT is the enabler. If you're in the financial services industry, then you're likely ahead on this conversation. You're accepting that without technology, you won't even know how much money you have. Because what's money? It's not cash in the bank at Bank of Jamaica. It's really just information on your computer systems. And so you're there. For entities that's on the supply chain side, they're starting to get there because they're now starting to see the importance of the daily in time, the cost of demurrage, what's going to happen if we're not able to process the information fast enough to get the results we want. If you're in health, IT wasn't that important to health until recently. You could keep everything in paper records and you'd be happy. But now we see a transition where health services also need to have access to the data right there in the operating theater in order to have an effective operation. Now, he asked a question as a technical person, and I could respond as a technical person, which is to say, turn off the server. And when you turn off the server, everybody will start to understand the importance of technology to making business happen. And the reality is, it's not infallible. The servers will go down, but are you seizing that opportunity? Each time you have a service glitch, are you documenting the impact? Are you working with the financial team? Are you working with the risk team? Are you working with operations team to understand the impact on the business and document it and get the lessons learned that will then foster the next spending initiative? Any other questions? Conversation, people. My nervousness went very quickly, so Chris has a lot of filler to do if we don't have more conversation. Shall I pose questions? There's a hand over there? Okay, go ahead. And another one here? Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, thanks.
Good morning.
So you made an interesting term there about cost of indecision. Sounds very nice, but how do you actually measure it?
Well, cost of indecision is really the flip side of the expected return on investment.
Right.
So it's still the return on investment, but it's futuristic return on investment. It makes you think you can wait. It's a hope, it's a dream. And at TTEC we say the hope is not a strategy, we want to plan to do something. But cost of indecision, it starts to make you really feel the pain. We tend to respond to the whip more so than the carrot, and so therefore it's the same number effectively, but flipped. You want to add anything to that, Rick? Cost of investment, sure. Sorry.
Sort of an analysis. So that's. I don't think I'll need the microphone.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, I got confused a little bit. Cost of indecision, cost of inaction. There's another question. Thank you.
With cost of indecision, and we look at return on investment, there's a growing undercurrent of risk aversion. So how do you mitigate risk, and what sort of management strategies would you advise?
That's a whole other presentation. I should have put that in my auto scope. But I'm going to give you an example, kind of building on the risk example I had earlier of the pharmaceutical industry, okay, where there was a project that was done by Microsoft Data related to this whole concept of data privacy. It's going to be a long answer, but I think you'll connect the dots. It's related to the concept of data privacy, and with data privacy we expect when we use a search engine. So Microsoft, working with one of the universities up north, aggregated a lot of search terms related to a pharmaceutical drug and anonymized it, of course, so they don't know who was searching, but they were able to work with the university to come to the point where you could see whenever you're searching for this drug, which was just a standard high blood pressure drug, medication, that there were certain search terms that were being used, whether it was headaches, whether it was frequent urination, etc., all related to this particular search term. Now, when the Food and Drug Administration of the states, when they're approving drugs, they're looking at the drug alone. They're not thinking about the drug and how it interacts with other drugs. And when they started to now combine the search terms, they started to see that this high blood pressure medication, when combined with a very prevalent and well-known antidepressant, it was actually triggering diabetes based on the search terms that were being combined, this drug and that drug and the various ailments that were being searched for. And when they drilled into it further and did the actual testing to validate what the search analysis showed, you saw that there really is an issue with respect to the mixing of these two drugs. So how does that help with risk management? So you can imagine for an organization, they're about to launch a product. They're going to go through that process of analyzing the risk of launching this drug, but they don't have the ability to test this drug across all the various combinations that's out there. That's where now you're going to find that as a risk organization, you have to go through that process of deciding what's the margin of error that you can tolerate. You have to work as a team to assess how do you go through making that decision. What are the insurance policies, etc. you have to put in place? What are you doing to mitigate your risks? What are you doing to control your risks as you take any decision as a business? Right? But that's a whole other conversation looking into risk assessments. Any other questions? Okay, I think I'm going to hand off now to Chris. Thank you very much. Oh, there's one there. Oh, go ahead.
I think us as IT managers should put at the table for CFOs, risk managers, CEOs.
Wow. One that they all seem to love is called revenue per head, profitability, the efficiency of the organization. That's one that I know that if they could really just, it's best that you speak to them, of course. But what we have seen is that this concept of looking at the performance numbers relative to the number of team members, because in most organizations, one of the biggest hits to the bottom line is human cost, then it helps them to make decisions around hiring, etc., when they're able to touch those numbers. Anyone else from a CFO line would like to give some insights? Any CEOs in the room that would like to share some of the things that they want to hear from their business in terms of metrics? No brave souls out there? No? But we can talk offline, okay, in terms of some of the various numbers that they look for. Okay? Thank you.